What is going on, Fight Family? Just finished watching the pound for pound queen, Claressa Shields, defend her undisputed middleweight championship against Maricela Cornejo. It was Claressa Shields by dominant, unanimous decision. I picked her by decision. And I have to say that the fight went about how I thought it would go. I thought maybe that Cornejo would get around in there, but she ended up not getting any. Let me get to my pros and the cons. Let me start with Cornejo first. The pros would be she took this fight on 9 days notice. So I give her much props for that. The good thing is that she was already preparing for a fight to come up in the next week or two. So she was already in shape. Yes, that fight would have been at junior middleweight if I'm not mistaken. But for pros to have to fight a few pounds higher is usually not that big of a deal, especially in the women's game. So I give her credit for that. She could have tried to back out of this fight, but she didn't. She had pretty good foot and lateral movement, which I felt kept her out of the way of some shots, even though she took a lot of shots. But it gave it. She would have got hit with more. Would have got hit with more shots if she didn't have that good lateral movement. And she did at least try to use her jab. But let me get to the cons. For a woman who's 5'10", I want to say that's where how tall she is. I did not like the fact that she was ducking down. She was ducking down to or below Claressa's height. They were almost looked like as if they were eye to eye. I like more what Savannah Marshall did and Christina Hammer, where they used their height and they stood tall. I did not like that. And I didn't like that Cornejo kept, even though she had good lateral movement, she kept her head, in my opinion, on the straight line, which is when she did get steel. I feel like that was the reason that she was getting hit the most. And I feel like she did not put enough pressure on Claressa Shields, not enough power behind those shots. I know she's not a power hitter, but I thought that she could have maybe tried to put a little more power to keep Claressa off of her. As for Shields, the pros would be she was definitely going for the knockout. She was actually pressing for the knockout, which I'm going to talk about in my cons, which I do like that because it would be good to see her stop an opponent. I like the fact that she found something with that left uppercut. And I like the fact that she had some pretty decent defense in this fight. But as for the cons for Claressa, I did not like the fact that she did not do any work to the body. I mean, she went to the body 3, 4, 5 times maybe. And I feel that the fact that Cornejo was keeping her hands up so she couldn't get hit, Claressa should have went to the body. I also didn't like the fact that Claressa was so pressed for the knockout that she was not following up her shots. She was landing a good right hand sometimes, but then she didn't follow it up with anything. She would hit her with the right hand and maybe take a step back and reset up her punches when she should have been throwing 2 and 3 punch combinations. In the 7th round, she did try to do that. She tried to press a little bit more, but I felt that Claressa just needs to be herself. Listen, if she doesn't get any more knockouts ever in her career, it's not going to matter. What matters is that she gets in there and she dominates the fight. Let's talk about the fight a little bit. Rounds 1 through 10, it was all Claressa Shields, with the best round, I would say, being the 7th round when Claressa went for broke. She realized that Cornejo was not going to hurt her, so she went in just bombs away, which I can respect that because when a fighter isn't going to give you they're not going to put any pressure on you, any heat on you with those punches, you might as well go in there and do your thing. I reference this fight quite often, but it reminds me of Ike Beabuchi against Chris Bird. Chris Bird, one of my favorite fighters, but Ike Beabuchi knew that Chris Bird had no power, and he treated him like a man who had no power. He just went in there and literally went right at him and got him out of there. I respect Claressa for doing that. She knew she was in there with a fighter who doesn't have great power, even though she has respect for her. That's why she said that her right hand was pretty good. But she knows that woman has no power, and she showed it in the 7th round. I just really feel that Claressa, if she would have set up her punches a little better, she may have at least been able to get a knockdown. Anyhow, the rest of the fight was just all Claressa Shields, pot shot and counter punching until we get to the end of the fight. And Claressa had what I thought was a very good unanimous decision. So let's talk about what happens from here for Claressa Shields. I still think that there's a few decent fights out there that she could take. Chris Mannix mentioned at the end of the fight, is she going to want the winner of Savannah Marshall v. Cruz Dezern? She said that she would fight either one of them if they want to fight in Detroit. I still think that there is a fight at junior middleweight that she can pursue, which is Natasha Jonas, who fights. I know Natasha fights sometime coming up. That could be a decent fight for Claressa if she's willing to go back down to 54. She fought Cornejo, which is a fight that I did want to see. So we have that fight out the way. And of course, at super middleweight, there is still there is the Cruz Dezern Savannah Marshall winner. And what about Green at super middleweight? That's a fight that I don't hear a lot of women calling out, but she's out there. That could also be a decent fight. And I may be crazy for this, but if we can get Hannah Gabriel's clean, I still wouldn't mind seeing that fight. I still wouldn't mind seeing what happens if they get back in the ring. To be honest, I was very excited about that fight. I was disappointed when Hannah popped dirty on her drug test, but maybe if we can try it again and we can get her clean, maybe that's a decent fight. But fight fans, what did you think? Did you have Claressa win? I'm sure you did, but did you think that Claressa was going to get a knockout, or did you, like myself, pick her by unanimous decision? And what do you want to see her do next? And one more question. They mentioned a few times in this fight about women's 3-minute rounds. Now, if you've been rolling with me for a while, you know I'm not a fan of the women fighting 3-minute rounds. I am a fan of women fighting 12 rounds, 12 2-minute rounds, but I'm not a fan of the 3-minute rounds. I think that we don't see a lot of knockouts as it is in women's boxing, and I don't think that adding that extra minute is going to get knockouts. Let's be very clear. True women who had true power, like Christy Martin and Ann Wolf, they were knocking out opponents in with those 2-minute rounds. That is proof that we don't need 3-minute rounds. And if you want to go with someone recently, Savannah Marshall, they've shown that 2-minute rounds is plenty to get your opponent out of there. I think that if this fight had 3-minute rounds, I think you would have seen Claressa Shields gassing by the time we got to rounds 8, 9, and 10. I like the 2-minute rounds. I think it's good for the women. And I do think that they're able to get knockouts. Now, I know I kind of went on a little bit, but tell me what you think about that. Do you think that the women should go to 3-minute rounds, or like myself, do you want to still see 2-minute rounds? All right, fight fans, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking boxing. Other than that, that's all I got. I'll let y'all later.